Hello and welcome to the best of WDT, When Docs Talk. We are joined today by our regular crew and we are going through our history and journey. Thank you so much for being a part of that journey. We want to bring on the crew and then we're going to jump into this whole WDT, best of WDT episode where we take you down memory lane. When dogs talk, when dogs talk, when dogs talk, when dogs talk. When dogs talk, 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 when dogs talk. All right, crew. Let the people know who you are for those who haven't been here for a while or who are joining us for the first time.
Okay, I am Dr. Sonia Pinson. I'm a board certified family medicine doctor working in an ER setting. Born and raised here in Georgia, traveled around the world and on a ward tour in the Navy, came back to Georgia and being able to work with these great, beautiful ladies. So great to be here tonight and look forward to the show.
All right, Dr. P, who else is in the house?
Morgan is in the house.
Morgan's in the house. Talk to us, Morgan.
This apple is going to follow that peach. So my name is Morgan. I hail from Brooklyn, New York originally. I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I am a registered nurse. It's an honor and privilege to be with this fabulous WDT crew. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to spread the love and the information that we have, and I'm just ready to see where this goes.
All right now. All right, Dr. Yuli, I see you in the house. Let the people know what they need to know.
Whoop, whoop. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Yuli Harrison Lloyd. I'm a board certified family medicine physician working in a urgent care emergency setting. I guess, she's a Georgia peach and that's a New York apple. What's Arkansas have? Rice, cow, cotton. and then you gumbo in there.
Bill Clinton. That's what you guys have.
Right.
Bill Clinton gumbo, I guess that's me. So New Orleans and Blava, Arkansas, my roots. I am married to wonderful children who are hopefully asleep right now. And I hope that this show is as enjoyable as I think it's about to be. I think it's going to be a treat for y'all.
Oh, you already know. You already know. So, ladies and gents, let me introduce myself too. I am Dr. Adediong Ipe Apo. I know it's a mouthful, but you know what? I can also be known as Dr. Didi, Dr. Ipe, or just your girl Adediong. I wanted to let you know who we are before we jump into our journey. We are When Docs Talk. We are a collaborative of physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, healthcare professionals. We are mainly emergency and acute care healthcare professionals, but we have guests from all walks, all different types of specialties, and even outside of medicine. So if you've been along the journey, you know, but if you don't know, you're about to find out. Let's jump into our very first episode, ladies, because honestly, this is year 3 for us. And it's been really interesting to see how things evolved because we started when the world was shut down, right? Like we started when it was COVID-19 everywhere. We didn't know what was going on, even though we were on the front lines. We didn't know where this journey with COVID was going. And our guests also didn't know. And so it was a lot of information that people were asking us every day about what is this COVID thing? And we decided to, as we were exploring ourselves, also try and impart what we knew to our guest. So let's bring up our very first When Docs Talk episode. It was called Sheroes, COVID-19 Sheroes, because we acknowledged all the women who were battling COVID-19 in different spheres. And we thought they were heroes because it was moms, it was doctors, it was sisters, it was caregivers, it was people who had to put food on the table. And how were they going to do this? It was pregnant women. Let's bring it up and talk about what happened there. Teacher. Hello and welcome to When Docs Talk. Y'all remember those masks?
Mhm.
Yes.
We thank you all for being here. You've joined When Docs Talk. We are focusing on Sheroes today, but before we launch into that, we want to tell you a little bit about who we are. We thank you for joining us. We are When Docs Talk. We are a collaborative of emergency physicians and nurses, as well as health practitioners in general. And what we're here to do is we're here to discuss healthcare topics, but also topics outside of healthcare. We want to put our pulse on the nation and see what's on your minds. And it's very clear right now that what's on your minds is coronavirus, COVID-19. It sort of came in and turned our worlds upside down. So we thought the first thing we need to talk about is that, because anything else would be tone deaf. So welcome to When Docs Talk. Here at Docs Talk, we're based in Atlanta, Georgia, but we have women from all over the United States joining us today. And we ourselves are also not just from Atlanta originally. So I remember that crew, ladies. You remember how we had Dr. Tawny, who's still a friend of WDT. We had Dr. Liz, who's also the same. And we were just trying to explain to the world who we were and what this coronavirus thing was. And by the way, I introduced myself today again, but I was remiss because I did not shout out the 305. Miami is representing by way of Nigeria. So anyone who knows, holler with me. But in any case, we had a whole crew of people and we were talking about it. And I want to jump to when we started to talk about the stats, because this is something that, like I said, we were bringing to the forefront. Nobody really knew what was going on and people had so many questions. I think Morgan was the one who introduced some of the statistics. So I'm going to go to that section. Hold on. Tell us a little bit about coronavirus. Morgan, you have some of the stats.
Okay.
Because I know
as of May 11th,
yeah,
there are over 4 million cases worldwide. The U.S. is the epicenter with over 1.3 million cases.
Okay. What else do we know about the disease?
Yeah, so we've all been watching these numbers tick up. I'm sure on the side of some of our national news stations, we've had about 80,000, almost 80,000 deaths in America. And just to put that in perspective, that's like filling some of our largest football stadiums full of people and all of them being dead. Astronomical numbers we're talking about here.
Do you know what's so funny is that she's talking about astronomical numbers, and this is in May 2020. That's when we did this episode. She's talking about 80,000. Y'all remember that towards the height of COVID, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of deaths from COVID. So to think about how we were feeling at that point and know that it evolved and became so much worse. I mean, what are some of your thoughts, ladies? You guys remember this episode?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember being scared, and I think it was this episode we had mentioned that, I had an elderly mom that was living with me and me being fearful of being on the front lines and not knowing, if I was going to bring something deadly home to my mom. So this was a very scary time for us. Very scary.
Yeah, I hear you. Sonia, what were your thoughts about it?
Well, I know, it was exciting to do the show and to start it because we had been talking about it for a while, even though just in the midst of life and this pandemic that came about, that we just really, I know for me, it just threw us for a loop because it was an organism that we really weren't clear about what it was going to do. But we just saw that it was devastating. It was scary. We didn't know from the standpoint of, even though we were trying to help people, what was going to happen to us.
Right.
Just kind of piggybacking what Morgan was saying from the standpoint, we're going to bring it back to our loved ones, our families. I mean, I remember during that time where people weren't even living in the same home or the same space with their loved ones and family members because they were so scared that they were going to bring something back to their family. So, from the standpoint, it was so much hard work and trying to take care of people, the amount of people we were taking care of, but also trying to take care of yourself and your families through all of that fear. It was a time.
For sure. For sure. I remember I would strip down naked in the garage when I came home from work because I didn't want to bring a single piece of clothing in. I wanted to make sure that I was not the cause of COVID coming into my family's life. And so I was so heavily masked. Those of you who worked with me in the emergency department know that I was the one with like the helmet of life. I had hazmat suits that could compete with no other. Okay. Because I was not about that COVID life. And I'm happy that I did it at the time, especially when COVID was a disease that was a lot more deadly than it is now. Thank God.
Yeah, it was so virulent, so virulent, and the serious complications that we were seeing at the time. I mean, once again, it was just unprecedented. It was unreal at the time.
Absolutely. Dr. Yuli, where was your head in that first episode? I know you weren't there in that first episode. You joined us for some of our COVID series later, but what was going on in your mind with the start of WDT?
Oh man, I was happy to see that there was a group of women out there that looked like me who could really understand what I was going through and who I feel like they don't see faces that look like ours, speaking to them about medicine and to be able to talk with people not only about what's going on with the disease itself and the information we're getting on the disease itself, but our own processes through it. I mean, I wasn't on that show, but at the time I had a 9-month-old and I was breastfeeding. And imagine, I too was, basically having a homemade strip show, in the garage when I get home. But then I was an overproducer. So every 4 hours I was trying to find a corner, sanitize it, pump, and then get back twice a shift for about 4 months before my body just quit. So I was just thinking like, this crap is scary as hell. And if there aren't people who aren't looking at this show, they should, because you guys were like a voice of solace at that time. I don't know if you realize that or not.
Wow.
Well, thank you for that. And we did get a lot of feedback from our viewers about that show and about, just how they were feeling, just what they wanted to know in general. I want to put up a little bit of something else here. A little bit about coronavirus. What is this coronavirus?
So I think it's one of the viruses that are not well studied. And I think that's a part of the issues that we're facing. But it's a distinct variety of disease. It causes a distinct variety of number of diseases in humans and animals. It's from the word corona itself means crown. And you probably in the media are hearing COVID-19 used synonymously with coronavirus. And it's actually, when you break down the name, you'll see that corona, the CO comes from that, virus, the VI comes from that, and the D comes from disease, and 19, since that was the year that we kind of honed in on this virus itself.
Absolutely. So like you said, we're still learning about this virus. You all know it's communicable, so it's an infectious disease. It's spread by droplets, so the little particles of liquid that would come from a cough or a sneeze, or even from talking. And the things that we know, at least from the CDC, in terms of common symptoms when people present with it, would be things like fevers and chills, body aches, headaches, sore throat, a new loss of sense of smell or taste, But there are a lot of symptoms that we're seeing as practitioners. I know when I've been in the emergency department, and several of you have talked about patients who are just coming in with things like abdominal pain and diarrhea. So it's evolving what we know about it and how it presents. But here at When Docs Talk, we don't want to talk about things that you can learn on a quick Google search. So you can look in Google and you can find out, how it's spread and the common symptoms. What we want to look at is we want to look at the social aspects. We want to look at how this disease is affecting us throughout the nation and not things that you can read about. So I want you to know what's going on inside your neighbor's house, because I know it's been a while since you've seen your neighbors in many cases. We've kind of been in our own little silos, our own little apartments and houses throughout. And so what we plan to do at When Docs Talk with this COVID-19 series is we want to talk about women in COVID-19. We want to talk about the intersections of race and ethnicity in COVID-19. Who is it affecting? We want to talk about immigration and COVID-19. We want to talk about the global response, things that we're not hearing about as regularly. We want to have that discussion. And more importantly, we want to bridge the gap, because I don't know about you, but I feel like now that we've all been sheltering in place, we're losing a lot of that human connection. We're not talking as much. We're not seeing each other. I'm a little bit worried for our kids, especially. I want us to hear stories, and we're going to start off with stories of women today. So let me actually quiz you all. I want you guys to tell us what you think. What percentage of women make up the healthcare force in the United States? How many jobs, or what percentage of jobs I want to talk about? Would you say it's 20, 70, 90%, 10%, less than 10%?
I think it's B.
Well, you're right. If you guessed B, you're absolutely right. So women make up, there we go, Sonia, she got it. And all of you at home, I don't know if you guessed B, but you need to know that women make up to 70% of healthcare jobs. So what does this tell you? That means we're on the front lines. We're the nurses, we're the doctors, we're the medical techs and x-ray techs. So that's one reason we chose to highlight women, but that's not the only reason. So we've all heard about coronavirus and how it's hit our nation and how people are losing jobs left and right. But did you know that more than half of the job losses in the past 2 months have been women? Did you also know that there's mounting data to suggest that women are impacted by the coronavirus because they're victims of domestic abuse and intimate partner violence? Studies are showing us that here in the United States and even outside, there was one study in China that shows that women are forced to shelter in place. And because of that, they're now bearing the brunt of frustrations, or if they were already in a situation where there was intimate partner violence, they were actually seeing that more. Now, another thing that we want to impress upon you, why women, is because we know, especially we in this collaborative as medical practitioners, we know that women have many hats. Ladies, you wear the hat of whatever profession you're in. You're a daughter, you're a mother, you're often a caregiver. And so many women have had to work during this coronavirus pandemic, but also come home to do the homeschooling that we're now thrust into, and also are caregivers if we have anyone in our family who gets sick. So recognizing how amazing you all are, how many hats you wear, and also in celebration of Mother's Day, that was yesterday, we decided to start our series with When Docs Talk coronavirus series, focusing on you. Pregnant women are often kind of this silent high-risk category that they haven't named outright. And the reason I say that is because we're bringing on our next guest who have a lot to say about being pregnant and new mothers in the coronavirus era. Sonia, you want to tell us a little bit about our guest on the bottom, who, if you could unmute yourself, please, Rosie.
Hello.
Hi. So yes, I'm introducing Miss Rosie Washington. I just want to thank her for participating in this. And so Rosie, she goes to work every day on the front lines fighting COVID-19. But also, I think sometimes we don't think about the fact that the people that are working in healthcare doing these things are people, and they have lives. So she's a mother. And then on top of that, she is in the third trimester of pregnancy. Yeah, could you just kind of share, I guess, from the standpoint of number one, I guess, how long have you been doing this? And number two, kind of how are your thoughts, or what are your thoughts about being pregnant during all of this?
I've been a nurse for a little over 10 years. The scariest part is just wondering, about when it's time to deliver, if everything's going to be okay, if I'm going to have to leave my child at the hospital. Other than that, going to work, is what I know. Nursing is what I love. So I still go. I just make sure, hand washing. I wear my mask. I have faith. I'm not too fearless. Most of us is not really fearless that's in the medical field. So I keep the faith and I take it one day at a time.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, what's the hardest thing that you've had to do being pregnant? Because you have 2 kids. I mean, I know you, you're a friend of mine, and I know that, you're a single mom. And I want to know, what is the scariest or hardest thing being pregnant in the age of coronavirus? Because I can't even imagine it. I can't imagine being pregnant right now.
My hardest thing is teaching. Like them being out of school has been like the hardest thing ever. I don't really worry about the health aspect because like even when their doctors call, like, how your son asthma doing? I'm like, well, I'm going to control it until I can't control it no more before I even bring them into the hospital. So I'm not really worried about that part. It's just more of they're at home, they're running out of things to do. And now I'm a teacher too.
Right. I know the struggle is real. I see Sarah laughing at us over there in the corner because she's a teacher. She's going to tell us about her experience. There's a great question we have from one of our Facebook viewers. Jody Ann Mosley wants to know, how are pregnant women to be treated when they go to the hospital for delivery? There have been sad cases of women going and being denied care or receiving slow care because of all the testing and distancing. Does anyone want to take that? Like when you go, you specifically, Rosie, I would like you to answer that.
So I haven't been to the hospital, thank God, because I refuse to go. But when I go to my regular clinic appointments, they just having us stay 6 feet apart. They're getting us in as quick as possible. I'm also a high-risk pregnancy, so I really shouldn't be out here. But so I go every week, and every other week I go twice a week. So when I go to the high-risk doctor, they only let 3 people in at a time. And they'll send you back out to your car instead of having you sit in the waiting room. They'll call you, let you know when they're ready for you. My other clinic just make sure everybody have on a mask, everybody's 6 feet apart, and then they try to get you in as quick as possible.
Okay.
The hospital, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I am hearing that I may have to take a rapid COVID test before delivery.
I've had some patients say that they have to take a rapid COVID test, and if they want their partner to join them during the delivery, they have to do the same. Some places are saying if you don't have a designated partner, or if you have somebody who's not a very close partner, so if it's just a friend, that they may not be able to come in. So I think it depends on the hospital, and it just depends on, the setting. But I think you might have to take that test. I think so.
I have heard of, and I have been avoiding that test.
Okay.
Because my gag reflex is not that good. So I've been avoiding it.
Well, I just had my aunt she said that she had hers Friday, and she was like, you know what? As much as people say it looks bad and it feels bad, hers wasn't that bad.
Okay. So when it's time for delivery, ready or not, I'm going to take it because it's what's best for me and the baby.
That's right. Well, Rosie, we really thank you for being here. Hang on for just a little bit, because I want you to be here when we have the discussion with this lovely lady on my top right-hand corner. We have Dr. Sarah Grant. Welcome to the show. Dr. Grant is actually really, really phenomenal woman because she is a recent PhD holder. She just got her PhD not too long ago. She is a 2nd grade teacher at a local elementary school here in Atlanta. And she just had a baby just a couple months ago. So she had the baby right before all of this craziness started. And I want her to tell us about all of those hats she wears. What is it like teaching? What is it like to having a new baby? All of it. So please, let's welcome Miss Sarah Grant, Dr. Sarah Grant.
So first, I want to say thank you to all of you, because your hearts of service are what is keeping our country alive right now, and just what is fueling all of the positivity that is occurring. And it has been rough. So I delivered on January 17th. And I was going to not go back to work to teaching until at least the middle of April, but mid-March, March 13th, they decide we're going to do online school. And my long-term substitute, she just approached me and said, I don't think I can do online school. And I said, okay, I'm going to come out of maternity leave, with an 8-week-old and attempt this. And it has been just as chaotic for me as it has for all of you, because I am always wanting to meet my students' needs in a very individualistic way. And I'm also a control freak. And so it has been so hard for me to relinquish all of those roles onto the parent, and to also realize that there is nothing normal about you sitting down at your home to do school.
Yeah.
And so the students log on with me a couple times a week, and half the time I'm holding a screaming baby, and they look at him on the screen and laugh, and they think it's hilarious. But honestly, it's been this really big juggling act of, how much do I engage the students without being overbearing on their parents, because at a second grade level, the parents are having to help them log on and help them stay online. And then I have had a lot of prayers for my students and their families, because their social and emotional growth at this time is stagnant. Unless you have a sibling at home to interact with, I'm terrified for my students and their social well-being right now.
I understand that. I can only imagine the isolation that we're feeling as adults, let alone kids, who are just struggling to come into themselves. Part of school is learning how to interact with people, and that's a large part of their lives that have been taken away. So I understand that. One quick question about that: who's having a harder time, the parents or the kids?
I think the parents.
The parents.
And something too is that everybody looks forward to summer. Everybody looks forward to that time with their children. But there is nothing normal about a parent sitting for 8 hours a day at home with a child. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's not. It's definitely not normal to do that for an extended period of time, for longer than a 6-week summer. And so I definitely think that the parents are having a harder time. And they're also, there's this large pendulum swing. There's either the parents who want 8 hours of work, or a parent who says even 30 minutes of work, I can't do it. I'm trying to do, what I can do at home to work. So there's just so many family members wearing so many hats. And I have so much respect and empathy for the parents, because now that I'm a new mom and having, uninterrupted sleep and not being on a schedule at all, I pray literally every day, like before I get online with my students, please just let him sleep for half an hour so that I have some face-to-face contact with these kids, because they might not get any other face-to-face contact today because their parents are busy working. And I think it's rough.
I agree. It's definitely rough. I think it's rough because I've called you and reached out to you many times. The last thing I want you to tell us is a little bit about your new motherhood. I congratulate you on your new baby. How old is he now?
He's almost 4 months.
Almost 4 months. What's the hardest thing?
Oh, I have no mom group. I mean, I have no camaraderie with other new moms. We get on Zoom calls, and I see my friends through a screen, but I'm a very social person, and I am just missing that camaraderie that I have with other new moms. And there's only so much that you can learn on a screen. And I've often found that I'm dumber because I get off the screen after being on it all day, and I can't string a sentence together. I can't have a conversation with my husband, and I'm flabbergasted. It's so hard.
I could only imagine. I am not on the screen all day, but even for the long periods of time that I have to be, it's hard. Dr. Grant, I thank you. I thank you for your words. I thank you for answering our questions and for being a guest on here. I wish you good luck, and I hope that you'll find a network of support. For those of you watching the show, definitely post your questions and comments. Hopefully we can form a little bit of a network of support for each other. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
This question from Sharon Jameson up on here because I think it leads to the next thing I wanted to know from you. She's asking, do you think we will ever recover from this virus? I'm not sure because people are too transient in our country. What I want to know, especially from a New Yorker who knows that New York way of life, is New York and the country ever going to be the same? Specifically with New York, how is it going to, do you think that people are going to ride the train anymore? Are people going to do the thing? Are they going to be up in Times Square like they used to be? Like, what is New York going to look like, in your opinion?
In my opinion, having survived 9/11 and the idea of getting onto the train and using public transportation, it's a way of life in New York City. So we won't be the same, but we are resilient and we will come back. And right now, people are still using public transportation. I think 3 to 4 days ago, they had closed it down completely for cleaning. But if you're aware of the public transportation system, it's difficult to, if you're living in a remote area, you need the train. So we'll bounce back, but will it take time? I believe it'll take time, but people want to get back to what they knew.
This is real. I had someone, I went to get my eyebrows done the other day when they opened up, and the young lady said to me, she said, so is this thing real? Like, I paused. I said, yeah, it's real. People are dying. She said, so just old people, right? I said, no, everyone is dying. We're seeing casualties from little kids to adults, and being out there, we're seeing multiple cases come in per day. So it's real, y'all. You guys are walking around without masks. You're trying to jump back into life as usual. We're not ready. Protect yourselves. Stay home when you can, and wear your masks. It's real.
I think the last thing that I want to do is just to celebrate you all, ladies. We started with you because I very much genuinely believe that in every woman, there's a superwoman. I call you all Sheroes. And when I call this episode Sheroes, I wasn't just talking about people in the healthcare industry. I'm talking about the homemaker who's there keeping her kids and her husband perhaps sane. I'm talking about the retiree, some of them who are coming out of retirement to help out. I'm talking about the school teachers. I'm talking about every woman, whatever hat she wears, and some of you who wear many, you're all Sheroes. So keep your chin up and let's just get through this together. But let's not isolate. Let's talk about it. Let's meet in forums like this, share our thoughts so that we don't lose that connection that is so easy to be lost while we're sheltering in place. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of The Best of WDT, a trip down memory lane. Thank you to all our Sheroes, all the women that we started off this journey with, talking about our lives in the age of coronavirus. We thank you to all our viewers who have tuned in, who have taught us, who have laughed with us. And we look forward to this trip down memory lane with you, and also looking forward to showing you what we have in store for you in the next few years. Join us as we talk about love, sex, dating, and intimacy in the age of coronavirus. We look forward to going over those things that we watched with you and laughed about with you. Thank you for joining this trip down memory lane, and we will see you next time on WDT.
When ducks talk, when ducks talk, when ducks talk, when ducks talk. When ducks talk, when ducks talk.